Hurricane Jose may threaten northeast next week. Tropical Storm Jose has strengthened back into a hurricane, according to the National Hurricane Center. The storm, which could bring rain and wind to the northeastern United States later this week. It had maximum sustained winds of nearly 80 miles per hour and was 550 miles southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, early Saturday, according to the Hurricane Center. Jose remains out in the Atlantic Ocean and is moving toward the northwest, and that motion will bring it closer to the United States through the weekend. Just how far it moves west before turning to the north will tell forecasters a great deal about the likelihood of whether it will make landfall somewhere along the eastern U.S. coastline. The National Hurricane Center has included parts of the United States, from New Jersey up to New England, in its cone of uncertainty, which shows the probable track of the center of a storm over a 5-day period. The cone includes the New Jersey coastline, Long Island, most of Connecticut and Massachusetts and all of Rhode Island. A majority of the models keep the center of the storm over the ocean, including the major global models, the GFS, the American Forecast Model, and the ECF, the European one. Still, the proximity to land will likely bring strong gusting winds and rain to the northeast, including New York City, by the middle of next week. In addition, tropical storm force winds could extend to North Carolina's Outer Banks on Monday, the National Hurricane Center said. The official forecast track from the Hurricane Center puts Jose as a strong tropical storm Wednesday 225 miles southeast of New York. Coincidentally, the average track error for the forecast at 5 days is 225 miles. The forecast gives about a 1 in 4 chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, more than 39 miles per hour, in the mid-Atlantic and northeast. At one point last weekend, Jose was a Category 4 hurricane. But the window for intensification looks to last the weekend only. After that, an increase in wind shear and cooler ocean temperatures should begin to weaken Jose as it approaches the mid-Atlantic and northeast coasts next week. No matter its path, Jose's ocean swells are likely to cause life-threatening surf and rip current conditions in Bermuda, the Bahamas, the northern coasts of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Southeast, the Hurricane Center said. The hurricane season lasts through November. 2 major hurricanes, Harvey and Irma, have made landfall in the United States already this year. After doing a loop-the-loop out in the Atlantic Ocean, Hurricane Jose appears poised to take a track up the East Coast. In an update Saturday morning, the National Weather Service's Hurricane Center encouraged everyone from North Carolina to New England to monitor the progress of the storm, which is forecasted to bring increased winds and swells to the coastline Sunday through Tuesday. North Carolina's Outer Banks could see tropical storm force winds by Monday. Farther north along the U.S. East Coast, the chance of some direct impacts from Jose is increasing, but it is too soon to determine their exact magnitude and location, the Hurricane Center said Saturday morning. Once it gets a little closer, we'll start making decisions, a Falmouth marina manager told the Associated Press. Here are 4 maps showing Jose's predicted path, wind speeds, and arrival. The orange circle below indicates the current position of the center of the storm, while the cone represents its potential path. The solid white area depicts the forecast uncertainty for the next 1 to 3 days, while the stippled area depicts where it may go on days 4 and 5. How close this storm comes to New England during its closest pass Tuesday and Wednesday will dictate how much rain and how much of a breeze New Hampshire sees. Granite Staters may see some rain, including some tropical downpours, and perhaps some wind, but likely not enough to cause much damage. As of Saturday morning, Jose was a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. Its current movement is toward the northwest at 9 miles per hour. Jose has been a named storm in the Atlantic Ocean since September 5. Stay tuned as the track may fluctuate yet again. Hurricane Jose is expected to bring rough surf, beach erosion and maybe even some coastal flooding as it moves northward along the Atlantic coast, according to forecasters. At the very least, Jose will cause dangerous surf and seas, which will lead to beach erosion and minor flooding at times of high tide from eastern North Carolina to Maine, according to AccuWeather. John Lockhart, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service at College, said Jose is expected to have no impact on Pennsylvania at this point. He said Jose will be a fish storm, meaning the storm will affect mainly the fish in the ocean. As it stands today, the storm center is expected to remain off the coast and away from Pennsylvania, LaCourte said. As of Saturday morning, the storm and its winds of 80 miles per hour were located east of the Bahamas, according to the National Hurricane Center. The center of the storm is expected to move between the North Carolina and Virginia coast and Bermuda on Tuesday and Wednesday. Jose's center is not currently forecast to make a direct hit on land, but it will come the closest in New England, forecaster said. The closest hits expected to come to land is about 200 miles from Connecticut, Rhode Island and Massachusetts on Wednesday, according to the Hurricane Center. Jose is expected to be off the coast of Maine on Thursday, heading east further out into the Atlantic Ocean. For the latest forecasts, visit PennLive's weather page. You can see live weather updates via the National Weather Service and other Twitter sources below. Tweet us at @PennLive with photos of inclement weather at your place, incidents you see on your commute, or send a submission to submissions@pennlive.com. The storm Jose reclaimed its hurricane classification as it spun over the Atlantic Ocean on Friday, a day after it had been downgraded to a tropical storm. People in coastal areas from North Carolina to New England should monitor the progress of this system, the National Hurricane Center said in its latest public advisory, adding that parts of North Carolina might be placed on a tropical storm watch on Saturday. The storm follows on the heels of Hurricanes Harvey, which brought catastrophic flooding to Texas, and Irma, which destroyed communities in the Caribbean and led to flooding and power failures in Florida. But this hurricane does not appear to pose the same kind of risk. Jose does not show any signs of the rapid intensification that both Harvey and Irma underwent, Dennis Feltgen, a spokesman for the center, said in an email on Friday evening. Still, he added, people should keep an eye on the forecasts. Although the center of Jose is forecast to pass well east of the North Carolina coast early next week, tropical storm force winds are expected to extend well west of the center and could approach the North Carolina Outer Banks on Monday, he said. Farther north along the U.S. East Coast, the chance of some direct impacts from Jose is increasing, but it is too soon to determine their exact magnitude and location. The places where the storm could hit land directly include Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York City, and Rhode Island. But there is also a good chance that Jose will never make landfall at all. People on the East Coast are still being advised to watch out for more powerful waves and currents. The same goes for residents of Bermuda, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Starting this weekend and then into next week, the beach conditions will be getting worse, Melissa DeSpigna, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service, said in a phone interview on Friday. The surf conditions could start getting rough and we could have more risk with rip currents. As of Friday evening, Hurricane Jose was hundreds of miles east of Florida. It was heading northwest at about 10 miles per hour, with maximum sustained winds near 75 meters p.h. It is expected to get stronger through Saturday, though it could weaken again beginning late Sunday. For the past few days, Jose has been on a loop, after taking a northwesterly route near the Caribbean last week, skirting but not hitting islands like Barbuda and St. Martin, which were devastated by Irma. It doubled back on itself, heading southeast for a few hundred miles. Jose was downgraded to a tropical storm on Thursday morning, just as it was resuming its track toward the southeastern coast of the United States. It is still too early to predict the exact path the storm will take, Ms. DeSpigna said, adding, pretty much anyone on the coast needs to be watching the forecast. Hurricane Jose picked up a little strength Friday night, September 15, packing winds of 80 miles per hour as it made its way northwest about 600 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras, N.C. The National Hurricane Center reported Jose was moving near 9 miles per hour and gradual turn toward the north was expected over the weekend, the Hurricane Center said in its 10 p.m. advisory. Additional strengthening was expected this weekend. The Hurricane Center advised interests from North Carolina northward to New England to monitor the progress of the storm, saying a tropical storm watch may be needed for a portion of the N.C. coast on Saturday. In the far eastern Atlantic, Tropical Depression 14 was moving west at 10 miles per hour about 500 miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Its westward motion with some decrease in forward speed was expected over the weekend. Maximum sustained winds were near 35 miles per hour with higher gusts. Some slightly strengthening is possible, and the depression could become a tropical storm Saturday or Sunday. Hurricane Jose is the latest storm to threaten the Caribbean and the U.S., as it follows in Harvey and Irma's wake in the Atlantic. Jose, regaining some of its strength, was upgraded from a tropical storm to a Category 1 hurricane Friday afternoon. Previously as strong as Category 4, Jose has passed north of the Caribbean islands, including the Bahamas, and is making its way north, where it could threaten the east coast of the U.S. this weekend into next week. The southern New England coast is potentially in the storm's path. Jose is expected to produce high surf and life-threatening rip current conditions along the coast as it moves up the Atlantic, AP reports. Click or tap the arrows in the hurricane map below to follow Jose's path as tracked by the National Hurricane Center. Jose follows Hurricane Irma, which tore into the Caribbean islands and Florida, killing at least 55 people and damaging thousands of properties. The full extent of the damage is still being determined.